China plans Hollywood ban that could cost Hollywood hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm going to need a moment.
12 seconds later.
Okay, joking aside. This is, of course, rather interesting. So this comes in response to Trump's tariffs on China. But it isn't just the tariffs. This isn't simply just a trade war thing. It isn't just economy. This is as much about culture and who is going to dominate it for the next 100 years as much as it is about the sheer monetary benefits of this. So, China plans to ban Hollywood movies as they vow to fight to the end in a trade war, which is a huge blow which cost films such as Jurassic World Rebirth and a new Mission Impossible sequel $500 million. The Chinese movie market is pretty goddamn enormous, even though, mind you, Western entertainment does not have that big of a foothold within China. Only about 3 to 4 to 5% of the Chinese domestic market is foreign movies. The vast majority is actually Chinese-created films, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But what is the Trumpalophagus' response to this? Is it to go, oh no, Hollywood, I must crumple immediately and give the Chinese whatever they want? No, it's to impose a 104% tariff. The sheer balls on the man. XN. See, this is the thing. The whole Trump tariff thing is him absolutely swinging around America's ginormous phallus in an attempt to beat the opposition into submission, and he's not going to stop. He's not a traditional politician, as should have been hammered most fervently home by now. You can't play chicken with Donald Trump. It doesn't really work, especially not when you're China. See, there are some markets that can kind of square up against America and dare it to keep going. Europe is potentially one, Canada to a certain extent, but not China. So, the exports to China from the United States was $144.9 billion in 2023. That's quite a lot of money. That is a serious amount of valuables running back and forth between China and America there. And there's a lot of people that are supported directly or indirectly via jobs in China or supplying goods to the Chinese market. Absolutely. But what about China's takeaway from all of this? $501 billion. And that is after a rather precipitous fall. At the highest point here, China's trade with America was damn near $600 billion. Compared to how much wealth China is extracting from the American market, the American trade is a drop in the ocean. Quite literally. China has infinitely more to gain from access to America than America has to gain from access to China. That's simply just the reality of the situation, unavoidably and inexcusably so. And here's the thing. Free trade is an ideal. Ideally speaking, we would like for various powers to have, in essence, the free flow of goods from that nation to the other. That would be the perfect solution. If you could buy something from Germany and have it come to you at the same price that the German people buy that product, and vice versa. That would be ideal. However, this only works in a system of actual good faith, when neither side wishes to hurt the other. For a very long time now, a lot of countries have been taking active advantage of America. Chinese people and companies, China in general, has been one of these forces, one of these countries. Additionally, China has been using this money to launch its own attack on America. The reason why they've decided to launch it against the film market specifically is not random. Why would they ban Hollywood? Why are they banning movies? That makes no sense. It's only going to be a few $100 million, which, again, in comparison to the trade budget, is nothing. Why would they threaten Hollywood? Do they think that Americans are simply just so addicted to Hollywood, so in love with California, that they would overthrow Donald Trump if China threatened to not show their movies in China? Of course not. The reason is because the Chinese movie market is growing enormously. So, you can see here in annual revenue for the Chinese domestic market, from 20 billion to now almost 80 billion. China is building an entertainment industry to rival that of Hollywood, it is. And unlike Hollywood, it is all patriotic movies. It is all China, fuck yeah! Straight up propaganda. Like, actual unironic propaganda. Sacrifice, for example, about the Korean War. I've watched a fair few of these because they are funny. They are genuinely funny as hell. I swear to Jesus, you should watch some Chinese propaganda sometimes. It's so silly, you're not going to fall for it, but you are going to have a good time. And it is actually propaganda. What was the title of that movie? I forget now, but there is a Chinese propaganda movie about the Korean War, which begins with, "And then America invaded Korea." Must have missed that part of history class. I must have not seen that. It is straight up propaganda. And of course, when you literally define reality through media, you shape reality. You make it what is acceptable to say and think, and you can literally shape reality itself doing this. It's what's been going on in America now for a decade plus. It's how wokeism has gone to as much power as it has, because it has built so many cultural touchstones. China is now attempting to do the same, as up until this point, the undisputed cultural hegemon of the modern world has been the United States. It has been the primary producer of entertainment, of TV shows, of movies, of, hell, even to a large extent, things like comics, for example. Now, there are other vibrant comic markets like the French one or manga and anime and so on, but America was the undisputed cultural hegemon, and China could not understand for the life of it why America didn't use that position to further its position across the globe, why it didn't use that influence constantly to affect the lives of other nations' people. China has no intention to make the same mistake, as the only reason why it hasn't already attempted to coup the Western market is because it genuinely thought America was far stronger than it was. It really did believe that American movies, comics, and so on was somehow a hegemonic entity, so good and with such loyal fans that China couldn't hope to compete, not for another 5 years at least, building up their own entities. Then Marvel Rivals came along and it became an enormous smash success, even though China initially didn't even believe in it. Tencent was about to walk away from the deal because they had to pay licensing fees to Marvel. They didn't believe the licensing fees was worth it even. And what did they do? They created a lineup of hot characters and watched it sell like hotcakes. And in that very moment, tons of Chinese investment in Western game companies, in Western movies, in Western entertainment disappeared, was drained virtually overnight. Why? It was all invested in their own entertainment, as they suddenly realized, holy shit, our enemy is a lot weaker than we ever thought. It is time to capitalize on that immediately. And now that Trump is back in charge, he's the first American president in decades now to notice what China is doing and going, No, my predecessors sold out America to you. We sold out American production to China for short-term benefits. Oh, your t-shirt will cost $10. That's amazing, but you won't produce any of it domestically. You will give China your balls in a vice grip, and you will pray that your greatest strategic and cultural competitor chooses not to squeeze. China couldn't believe it. Genuinely, it couldn't believe its luck. It had everything it needed simply given to it. And it played the game for tens of years, pretending to be happy with the crumbs from America's table, until now that America has become so weak, so culturally divided, so divested in its own markets, its own industry, and its own entertainment, that China sees an opportunity to make a play for it. This is nothing more than an excuse. And Trump's immediate response is the correct thing. China still needs the American market. It still has an enormous amount of wealth invested in the American market. And it knows America does not have the industrial capabilities to compete with it. China will play hardball here in an effort to make it hurt. What China wants right now is for prices in America to soar, because domestic production is not going to be able to catch up to demand like that. It's going to take years. In essence, what Trump has done here is set in motion a 10-year plan, and China is hoping that he only has 4. If they can sufficiently raise prices whilst eating the loss of their own profits, whilst probably attempting to replace that loss with either increased access to the Russian market or the European or the African market, which is going to be an enormous gamble, mind you, as well, it is simply going to hold on and try to outlast Donald Trump, praying that the American people will see the price rise and go, Trump is terrible, he failed us, we gotta kick him out and replace him with another Chinese puppet. After which, they will have gained an even greater access to the American market. They will have made it unthinkable for future American presidents for decades, probably, to try and divest themselves from China. And the worst part is it is so close to not being necessary. Again, this is China's stake. 500 to 600 billion, vastly greater than America's. All the US needs to do is buckle down and understand that they have already sold out. They have already created a problem that cannot be solved painlessly. What Trump is doing right now is going to be drastic. It is going to hurt a lot for years and years, because the solution to this problem should have been implemented 20, 30 years ago, but it wasn't. It's going to be very interesting to see in the future now as to whether or not China's grip on the cultural market will increase, which I think it will. I think it's inevitable. I think China's grasp on entertainment will rise, inevitably so, for at least 3 to 4 years in my estimates. But the economic part is more difficult. So long as Trump understands what he's doing and what he's fighting here, an actively hostile opposing force, he does have a chance. Whether or not the American people will let him complete what is going to be a lengthy trajectory, call me a doomer, but I don't think so. I think the American people is far too sensitive to market changes and have grown far too accustomed to the comfortable life of dependency upon foreign powers and, in essence, slave labor. I hope I am wrong, but we'll see. Until next time, I have been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.